Hello and welcome. This is the Bytes vs. Bytes podcast, episode 16. I'm your host, Amagric, and my guest today is Ergin Borova. He is co-founder of Peddy, and we're going to hear all about that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation.
Could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you started Peddy?
Yes, I can. I'm Ergin Borova. I'm, as you said, one of the co-founders of Peddy. In my career before starting with Peddy, I was working as a manager and a CEO of a company, more companies. But at some point in my career, obviously, I came in this midlife crisis kind of phase of my life that I was really thinking with myself, like, okay, is this what I want to do? Or is this a good period to maybe make the change in my life that I always wanted to? Because I had a few ideas and a few maybe allergies or irritations that I really wanted to solve these problems. And one of those problems that was keeping me busy and was giving me a hard time actually was this process of annual evaluation of our employees. The way this whole process is designed right now is so traditional, and it's so not motivating both for employees as for the managers, for the leadership of the company, that by the time I decided to quit my job and start doing some other stuff as an entrepreneur, this was on the top of my list. I really wanted to start solving this problem, like making this more fun, more easy to work with, more empowering for both employees and the leaders of the company. And actually, that's what happened. I called one of my best friends. He is an IT guy, and we had a couple of beers. And within 6 minutes, we had our business plan ready because he believed in what I believed. And 3 years later, now here we are with Peddy and doing some great stuff.
Okay, so you're very much a startup in that sense still, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. We're in the first phase of growing right now. Yeah.
Okay, so could you explain a little bit what Peddy does? So what could a client of yours do with by using Peddy?
The important thing about Peddy, when I talk about the tool itself, it's not only the tool, it is actually more the philosophy that is behind the tool. If you work in a corporate organization at the moment, then you probably deal with these great systems that you can write everything down there. But it's all designed from old hierarchy and old traditional thinking, where bosses are the boss or the managers are the leaders who are leading, and they're more into telling you what to do, and the employees are the ones who are responding on that. The philosophy of Peddy is exactly the other way around. We think and we believe that it is much more powerful when you give the freedom and also the responsibility to the employees to mark their objectives that they want to achieve, to mark their growth, where they want to be next year or next quarter or whatever. And how do they get there? So the whole being in charge thing is in hands of the employee. And as they grow, as they mark their objectives, they are involving and engaging their leaders in working on them. Yeah. The easiest way to describe it is that if I'm your employee, I will make this objective that I want to work on. It can be a KPI, it can be a performance that I want to deliver, but it can also be something that I want to develop on myself, like giving better interviews or giving better presentations or whatever. And because you are a good guy, you can help me with it. I will engage you as my coach, even though you're also my manager or my leader.
Yeah.
So I will take you as I develop on it step by step in how I get there, and you will coach me and give me feed forward on the way to my development. And in the end, it's not that I'm expecting you to evaluate me, but I will evaluate myself first. Like, how did I experience this whole travel, this whole journey to achieve my objective? And then you will respond also on my evaluation, which makes it much more meaningful to talk about and much more fun also, because it's pushing me in this situation that I really need to think of how I do things and how do I achieve things. It's easy to tell somebody else, like, I think you're doing well or not well. It's much more difficult when you tell it to yourself, because you will be probably more critical and you will think twice about it, and because it's getting evaluated from both sides, me as an employee and also you as my coach or my leader.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of a discussion before we started recording. So you pick your coach, right? Could that also be someone else other than my manager in this case?
Definitely, yes. Yeah. We try to get through this hierarchy also with Peddy by not making everything attached to your manager, but you can choose a coach who has the talent to coach you on that topic specifically. So you can work, for example, on two goals that you want to achieve, and one of them can be giving better presentations, and the second one can be organizing your work better, or maybe writing this blog that you are thinking of for some time, or whatever, organizing this event.
Yeah.
And it can be that the coach for the first one is your colleague who is next to you, who is giving also these fantastic presentations, and the other one is just your manager because he can coach you better on that one. So we actually put the accent on talents, either than on hierarchy. It's important to get coached by the guy or the girl or the coach who can deliver most for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, if I wanted to be better at presentations, I would look into my organization and say, okay, this guy can or girl can really give good presentations, and I would also like to have some feedback or when I'm doing my own presentations of that particular person. Right?
Yes, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah. So
you can also search in Peddy by talents. So if it's a great company, it's a big company, and you're like, I don't know anyone who is giving good presentations. If they work on their profile, Peddy profile, they can put their talents on stage, so to say. So you can be searched by presentations, and then you will have 3 or 4 names. You can pick one, which makes it much more interactive and much more meaningful for you to pick one that fits you with the right talent than just pick your boss or pick somebody who's next to you all the time.
Yeah, because I can imagine if you're in a company of maybe 200-300 or even more people, you don't always know who the best people are for this particular skill, right?
Yes, true.
Yeah.
And by making this possible, you create also new dynamics in the organization because growing, learning, interacting is actually a thing in a company instead of having always this one-on-one interaction with your manager. It's letting loose and still being connected with each other,
Yeah, because the old school way of thinking is that I'm your manager and I need to grade you or at least evaluate you in a sense. What do you think what do you think is wrong about that process?
It's not like really wrong, but the thing that is really complicated and maybe like one-sided if you see it, is just that the manager is in the position to find something of you, like how do you do things. It's usually also very subjective.
Yeah.
As the traditional process is that in January, usually you make some deals with your manager, like this is what we're going to do, or I'm going to do this year. And then halfway, you will have this conversation to see how things work. And at the end of the year, he will evaluate the whole year. And I know because I've been 20 years, more than 20 years a manager and a CEO, I didn't know. The last 3 weeks were very important for the evaluation. If I had the last good 3 weeks with my employees, they had probably a good evaluation. But I really didn't know anymore what they did in January, February, or in May.
Yeah.
Just not possible.
You don't even know that from your own self, right? You don't even know what you did in January.
No, I don't even know what I had for lunch yesterday, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. And what we want is to twist it the other way around. So what we do with Peddy is put the employee in charge and tell him or empower him to mark a few objectives for himself, to engage 1 or 2 coaches to help him get there, and never have the timeline longer than 60 or 90 days to achieve that. Even though some goals maybe can take 300 days, but you can make a few pieces of 60 or 90 days, and then reevaluate each time. So you close this objective, you evaluate your own performance. Your coach is evaluating with you, also your evaluation. Mm-hmm. And if you do that a couple of times, you will be much more, it's almost like agile working, You make it in small pieces, and by that, you're much more intensively and actively engaged with your development than just like, if I don't hear anything from my boss, then probably I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
Which is like reversed way to look at things. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in this time when everything is going so fast. that we evaluate each other once a year or something like that.
Yeah, because we kind of accepted the way we are doing those kind of evaluations right now. We accepted it as like, okay, is this cycle? Everybody's thinking, why are we actually doing this? It's mostly based on, as you said, some kind of bias. You don't really know if someone performed the way you wanted to. And the other hand, it's also a cultural thing where you look at all the kind of negative stuff. You don't really look at the positive stuff that somebody did over the year. So how does Peddy influence that? Because I know that you really believe in that kind of positive thinking, in kind of giving the positive feedback. How does it supply or actually facilitate that as well?
Yeah. I believe in positivity because if you tell people what they're good at, it's more likely they will get better in it. If you tell people all the time what they're not good at, I'm not very sure if that is going to help them get better.
No.
In terms of football, that's the sport I like most. If you evaluate the striker for his defense techniques, I'm not sure he will get happy. And I'm not sure he will get very good in defense techniques. But if you evaluate him as a striker, if he's making enough goals and all that, well, that's something that you can discuss about with each other.
Yeah.
And that's also in a company the same. Everybody has his talents and everybody has things that he's doing well. I would say put especially more accent on those things that people are doing really well and try to make them the best that they can get, the best version of themselves on those topics that they're good at. And how Peddy delivers this, first, the employee or the owner of the goals that somebody has or the objectives that he wants to achieve. He is the one, the first place who is marking like these are the objectives I want to work on. And there is a reason for that. Either it is part of his ambition or part of his job, or maybe he's just trying to develop himself on things that he really likes. And if you do things that you like, you never have to work again. You know those sayings? You have to work, but it's more joyful. So it starts already with marking like what are the objectives that you want to work on and who is going to help you on the way there. The way Peddy works is more like social media kind of look and feel. So when you share things as you are growing, as you're working on your performance, people can give you feed forward or likes, but they cannot dislike your status, which is also positive. You are evaluating yourself. So one of the first steps you're taking is not being afraid of what the rest is going to find out of you, but you're critical on your own. So if you're critical enough, there's nothing to be afraid of what evaluation will follow after that. We're trying to make also things more objective. It's not only about evaluating yourself and giving feed forward and all that, but it's also about like empowering each other when we're doing good stuff. We have a special button in Peddy which delivers compliments to people who are doing some good stuff. And when we implemented the compliments model in Peddy, it was funny. Many people were afraid, okay, but probably now we will stop giving compliments in real life. Like, you know, this is like more virtual.
Yeah.
So everybody will stop telling the good stuff near the coffee or wherever. And the opposite is exactly what is going on. We can see on data analytics that people really like sharing compliments when they're delivering good stuff. And probably we all experienced it, that you are doing this great presentation, or maybe you did something great and you want to hear if it was good or not. And if somebody is telling you, then you are growing even more. You know, your self-confidence gets a boost out of it.
Yeah.
And by delivering this compliment also virtually with an app, with Peddy, it has a funny effect actually, but very strong, because you can be in the car or you can be just drinking coffee home and suddenly somebody says, hey, I want to give him this compliment because he gave this great presentation today and I just reminded myself on it, and you don't expect it. So when you get this on your app, you can see the whole text like, oh my God, you know, I had this great presentation and really cool, keep on doing these, blah, blah, blah. It helps you a lot on gaining more self-confidence.
Yeah.
And it's really making the beautiful things even more beautiful. And I believe in that. The more people tell you you're good at something, the better you get at it. There are more researches that show this.
Yeah, because It doesn't come natural to people to give that feedback. I know for a fact that, for example, I always was really bad at presentations, or at least I thought I was.
You wouldn't say that now.
Yeah.
If I hear you talking, it's
It's been a process as well, to be honest, and that's very logical for everyone. I think that does presentations. It's kind of starting at the beginning, like, okay, keep your breathing under control and stuff like that. And what I've noticed is that when I was kind of developing that, I really had to ask people, okay, what did you think of it? You know, and it wasn't kind of natural that people were like, okay, you did a great presentation, and but I would do this and this and this, or change this up a little bit. It doesn't come natural to people. So how do you think that? How do you think Peddy helps with that?
It's true, and it's funny that you say it's not natural, because it's not.
No,
actually, we are kind of, our brains are designed to always remember the bad things, and not really share the good things or the positive things. We try to do that by adding some things in the way Peddy works. Also, our compliments model is going to send everybody who is using Peddy a reminder every once in a while, like, do you have a colleague that you would like to share compliment with? Is there somebody that you would like to put the spotlight on? And by reminding them on them, there's always somebody who's doing good stuff. I mean, look at these companies here. People who work here all the time. They're probably doing some amazing stuff, but we just forget that it is amazing. It's like day-to-day business. And okay, it's maybe day-to-day business, but is it then that bad to put the spotlight on somebody every now and then when you really think that somebody did some great jobs? And that's what we actually try. We try to empower people to put more attention to that. Because before you know, we are going to have conversations only when things go wrong. But imagine all that energy to put in the conversations that go right, and the things that we do right, and how can we do things that we do right even better tomorrow. Because
the thing is that when I look at the in my examples, what I see is that people are really focused on, as we said, on that negativity part, and we're so focused on that, and we do that so often, and we often deliver that negative feedback, that giving positive feedback, even in some cases, even feels awkward. It sometimes feels awkward to compliment somebody on a good job. And that's something that
It's very Dutch, actually.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm born in the southern of Europe, and when you get a compliment there, probably they mean it, and you're always proud of the compliment. So if people say like, "Oh my God, you have great shoes," and you're like, "Yeah, I bought them yesterday in this shop," and you tell the whole story. And if you tell somebody here you have great shoes, at least that was my first experience 20-something years ago in Holland, when I said to this friend of mine, "You have great shoes." It was literally the shoes, and he was like, "Do you need something from me?" I was like, what is this kind of an answer? My Dutch was very lousy at the time, and I really didn't understand. It was a culture clash. But I know for a fact that also people in Holland liked to get genuine compliments or positive feed forward.
Everybody likes that.
When they do something great. They like it. It's just awkward because we dislearned it. How do you give somebody a compliment without having any other meaning with it? Just when you think that somebody's doing a great job, just saying that, like, you're doing a great job, thank you for that, and keep on doing that. That it's more than enough. So we tried that. We try to empower that with Peddy in a way.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say about that as well is, what I've seen a lot is that when you see, for example, if you look at kids that play on a football field, every Saturday, just go to a random football field in the Netherlands, and you'll see that a lot of parents are giving the negative feedback.
Yes.
They're really giving the negative feedback. And some do also give the positive feedback, but for some reason that positive feedback doesn't land. It's not like genuine positive feedback, in the sense, okay, I really enjoyed that you did this process, and you see that you're getting better, or something like that. It's actually something that I read in a book. It's called Mindset.
Yes.
It's a pretty good book about how kind of things like that work. So how that positive mindset works, and actually giving credit to the whole process instead of actually giving the positive feedback on the result. Because what happens, what they saw is that if you give positive feedback on the result, the next time it will be bad. It will actually be worse than the first time around. So it gives kind of a bar to kids, for example, that cannot be achieved. In their eyes, it's kind of a bar that says, okay, if I don't do better next time, I won't get that compliment, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Do you also see that in companies as well?
Yes, we do. It's. I'm glad that you're bringing this topic on the surface now, because feedback is something that is a topic like all over HR, but at the same time, it is very touchy. Like, how do you give properly feedback, and how do you deal when you get feedback, and is it positive or negative? And we've been dealing with this topic for a long time before we designed something in Peddy in order to facilitate this part of the process. Because genuinely, I do believe in feedback, but also not really the way we use it right now. And one of the things that is not working well is when you get feedback without asking for it. Mm-hmm. Because the first reaction of people, of our brain, is getting defensive about everything we hear, especially if we don't like it. If we like it, our ego is growing and all that, and it's fine. But as soon as you hear something you don't want to hear, mm-hmm. Your brain is fighting at that moment to find arguments to fight this feedback you're getting. And you will probably or react, or at least think like, yeah, I know, but it's not really like that. And, but the person that is giving the feedback is actually trying to help. At least that's what I assume. Mm-hmm. But we were like, okay, well, how do you design this in a good way in an application? Like, how can you make that work? Because if you get feedback and you like react like this, how is that going to help if it's through our application? And by talking to a lot of people and a lot of user cases and neuroscientists, we twisted it on 2 points. First, we call it feed forwards and not feedback. Yeah. By calling it feed forwards, we put the accents more in tomorrow and day after tomorrow, in the future, rather than yesterday, because yesterday is gone. You can not change anything about it, even though the source of your feedback or feed forward can be yesterday. But the important thing is, how can I improve that tomorrow? And the second thing we changed is that with Peddy, you are not able to give feedback, or in our case, feed forward to somebody without somebody asking for it. If you think you help somebody by giving it, you should do that, but don't use the app for that. Look for the person, look out for the person, go have some coffee and tell him or her the context and explain what you want to say, and then you tell the feed forward. But giving it with an app, it's like kind of really touchy and complicated. It's not helping. Where we believe that the learning organizations can be really learning when they are empowering their employees to keep on asking questions to their colleagues, co-workers, clients, or the whole ecosystem they are working at, to help them with their feed-forward questions. Mm-hmm. So if every employee would ask once in a couple of months a question like, how do you think I did this presentation? Of what did you think of the website I just designed? Or I've been your project manager for the past 3-4 months. How do you think I was leading the project? And do you have any improvement suggestion for me for the future? Yeah. Imagine we would do this like every couple of months. That would give us tremendous amount of tips and information that we can improve. And some companies like Coolblue is doing this with their clients. I think that's one of their successes. They're growing that fast because they're listening to what their clients are saying, and they are doing something with those improvements, with those tips. Imagine you do all that system of Coolblue on individual cases for every employee. Like, I would ask every 2 or 3 months one question to my surrounding, 360 degrees feed forwards, asking my colleagues, asking my manager and a few clients with a question, how do they think that I'm doing something? I will get a lot of information. And now the funny thing is, it's not about evaluating me. It's about gaining information to get to know me through their eyes and then process that information. Okay, they're telling me a few very important, meaningful things. I will pick up 1 or 2 tips that they're giving me or sharing with me, and I will work on it. I can, as I get them from Peddy, I can also stop them in Peddy as an objective, and I can choose a coach, one of my colleagues or whoever, and I can actually immediately start working on improving a few things, and then after 3 months ask the same question again, or to the same people or to other people, and then I will be the designer of my own development instead of somebody pushing me to develop. So you understand, it's a very touchy way we try to twist this whole process, because feedback is good, but it's really never working if you use it the way we used it for the past 20 years. I've been in many of these boards of directors and managers, and we've been a couple of days in these hotels, and we make these strategic plans and all that, and one of the appointments, or one of the things we were always dealing with was, okay, how do we give feedback to each other? Okay, from now on, we will talk and we'll give feedback to each other.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And it was on Thursday and Friday, and we had a weekend in between, and Monday we were still talking about it, and Tuesday, Wednesday, we forgot everything we were talking about. Because usually we want to stay in the comfort zone as we know it. It was okay. Why would we now start giving feedback? But we try to empower the other way around. Start asking questions, and actually never stop asking questions, especially when it's about your developments. Because if you don't believe in your own development and you don't design your own development, nobody will do that for you. And if you let your boss do that for you, then you accept the hierarchy that actually nobody really finds it functional in a day-to-day business. Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to have it, and I don't say that we don't need leadership and all that. But on day-to-day business, people are really smart enough nowadays to co-work with each other in a way that they don't need always a manager to help them with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you touched on a good point there, is that I think that the leaders are still important. They are, for example, important, I think, when you are implementing your kind of philosophy in a company. Do you also see that when, for example, leaders do that kind of thing, like they say, okay, I want feedback, and do you think that accelerates the process of the employees also picking it up?
Definitely, yeah. We had one example of the CEO who started asking feed-forward questions, and it was almost breathtaking for the whole organization. They were like, oh my God, he's putting himself in this vulnerable position, asking us what do we think of a few things about his way of dealing with us, with the company. And it was amazing because I think it's a company with I think 350, 400 employees. He asked I think all of them. I think when they started they had 200 working with Peddy, and he received like 30, 35 responses, which was more than he was expecting. And not only people around him, but just by putting the example on asking a question like, how do you think we as a board are dealing with a few stuff in the company? And
was that the question that he asked himself? Or?
I think something like that. Yeah. And then he decided to ask weekly, or not really weekly, but I think once or twice a month. And it could be also something about policy of the company. Mm-hmm. Like, we have this new policy about this and this and this. What do you think of that? And can you give us some feed forward on the topics that are important for you, or tips that we can improve it? And which made the interaction very interesting. And we learned a lot from that. And you can see that when the leadership of the company is putting themselves in this vulnerable position to ask this question and deal with it, then like all doors are open for employees to start doing that. And one of the best ways to lead a company is leading by example. Mm-hmm. When we give the right example, we have all the arguments of the whole world to convince also our employees to follow us in that way. And they do. Actually, they copy everything the leaders do. If we are vulnerable as leaders, they will put them also in that position, and they will also ask the same questions and deal with it in the same way. Yeah, because
actually the leading by example is a good part there, because it's not only acknowledging that there are problems or that there are things that could be better. It's also doing something about it. As you said, if you don't do it, then nothing will happen, right? If you as a leader don't follow up on those things that people are actually saying to you, then it won't work, I think. And I was wondering, and that's also a question I asked you, is what kind of organizations do you see? So there are organizations that, for example, just say, okay, but I don't believe people will do this, right? People will actually start using this. What do you kind of say to those kind of organizations?
Listen, Peddy philosophy is maybe revolutionary in a way, because we really started designing the whole application from the philosophy employee first, employee centered, And then around the employee, we started designing this app. And we never started like there's a company, they have employees and they need to register some stuff about them. It would be totally different point of view. So it's revolutionary in a way. And when we pitch Peddy, we always without any exception, get the feed forward like, wow, this is very original way to look at leadership, organizational development, employee development, etc. Because we put the employee centered, and then around him or her is the process designed. But at the same time, people also can see that it will be not easy to implement it because, there are a few adjustments needed in the culture of the organization in order to use it the proper way. Because if you see it only as a tool that you can ask feed-forward questions and you get it back, it's fine, it works. But if you want it to work in an excellent way, you really need to do it with the right mindset. And the right mindset is, okay, we will stop making all complicated plans about personal development and all that. We will start asking questions to each other. And we'll start helping each other with giving the right answers so that people can continue with those answers and start doing something about their personal development. And it gives very interesting traffic and very interesting, meaningful dialogue in our organization because people are talking about really stuff that matter. And once you get in this vibe, it's much more easier to continue working with Peddy. But because we know that, if when we talk with our colleagues about like what kind of company is this one or is not that are using Peddy, we have this term, are they ready to Peddy? Yeah. And if they're ready to Peddy, that means that probably the culture is transparent. There are a lot of, let's say, mature employees who know where they want to go and end up and grow and et cetera, et cetera. So once you implement Peddy, they're pretty much easy to start working with. But we have also companies, traditional companies who like for 100 years, they use these traditional processes and forms and all that, and these evaluations, etc. And they know it's not working, but because they don't have an alternative, they're still using it. And then Peddy comes around the corner and they say, oh, this is interesting. We should take a look at this. And they're taking a look at that and it's inspiring also. They're, oh, yeah, we believe this because we would like our employees also to get there, to be mature and to be independent and to put their objectives in Peddy and, get growing and get developing so that the whole vibe and the energy of the organization is changing with it. Yeah. But at the same time, they know they're not that far yet. And then we come with our chief happiness officers who are helping this implementation process. With team sessions so that they get the dialogue going and they get their objectives a bit sharper, like what is it exactly that you want to work on and who can help you with that and how transparent is this whole process. Are you safe working with Peddy and engaging some colleagues to help you? Are you safe sharing your updates with your manager or some other people? Are you feeling safe enough to ask questions and deal with the answers? We are trying to get this environment growing, and it is step by step. It's not a process of years. It takes years maybe to get there, but we help them the first couple of months to set the first steps. And it's just riding a bike. Before you can ride a bike, you need some help, and then when you are stable enough, then we let you loose and you can ride it further by yourself. So you have companies who are ready to Peddy. They are good to go almost instant and immediately. Even though it's revolutionary with the philosophy, and other ones need a little bit of help. Yeah,
because that culture fit is already there.
Yeah,
that's the thing, right? Yeah. So what I was wondering about when you were talking about that is, do you also have companies that just can't get it going at all? Even with your help.
Yes, we have a few of them. We had a few of them, I have to say. They were doing just the pilot with Peddy. Mm-hmm. But when a company is doing it with the wrong reasons or wrong expectations, then they're also not going to get there where they want to get.
It's not a cure for their culture. That's what you.
It's not. Yeah. No, it's not. Eventually, you will see that you need to change the way people deal with each other within the company and have a few things straight. The expectations. But safety of the environment where they work is maybe one of the most important things because people, especially here, they will think like, is this regulated well? What does it mean if I need a salary rise at the end of the year? Is it done? Is then Peddy leading or is something else leading? And there are a few of these touchy questions. If they're not answered right, then people get insecure and they stop working with Peddy. So we had a few pilots that didn't went the right way, and we learned a lot from them, because now we know also when it works and when it doesn't.
Yeah, and that's one question I also wanted to ask about the salary rise, because usually what happens is that you have an evaluation, right? And evaluation, your manager or whatever says, okay, you did all right, or you did good, and then some arbitrary number comes up that you can get a pay raise or whatever. You do it the other way around. So an employee says, okay, I did well, or I did mediocre, or I did very well. What stops them from actually giving them kind of scores that's always all right, because then I'll get a better pay raise, right?
Yeah. You would think that if people evaluate their own development, their own performance, that they would rate themselves maximum, like with 5 peddies. So you can rate yourself with peddies, the smileys. But the matter of fact is that they don't. The average of all delivered objectives in the past year was 2.66
on a scale from 1 to 5.
Scale 1 to 5.
Yeah.
So they don't actually, and we discovered that people are employees are more mature than we think they are. They act like kids when you treat them like kids, and they act like mature when you treat them like mature. So with Peddy, actually they're willing to look very critical to their own performance, and then also ask their coaches to look at their evaluation. So there's never really like only me thinking that I'm great, but there's always somebody else engaged in my objectives who thinks at least something about how do I perform.
Yeah.
And it's never exaggerated. And if it is, then it's probably true. But it's very rare that somebody is rating himself with 5 peddies. It must be excellent. Usually they get also compliments with 5 peddies from their surrounding when they do stuff like that. So they don't actually. It's people are very objective.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that you kind of notice going along, of course. And what I wanted to ask as well is that, do you also think that people that kind of have that kind of Peddy culture, let's call it that, in kind of an open culture?
We should keep that. Yeah. I like the sound of it, the Peddy culture.
Do you think that companies that have that, or do you see that because you see a lot of companies, do you also see that those kind of companies that have that kind of culture, that they are more successful than other companies, or do you see that it doesn't really it isn't really a factor in how successful they are? What do you think?
That's a good question. It's very difficult really to give an answer on that. I can tell that the companies that are dealing also on day-to-day business with the Peddy culture, their performance is pretty high, actually. The satisfaction and engagement of their employees is also very high. They don't have a lot of sick, cold employees in their company.
Yeah, because that's usually a factor of if someone is happy or unhappy.
Yeah,
right?
We can see that. I cannot see like the financial part of the story, but I can see that there is a different vibe and a different energy in those companies. One of the big banks in Holland is also using Peddy, and what we find really interesting, what is going on there, is that they don't really have this Peddy culture, but the departments that are working with Peddy, not the whole bank is working yet, but the departments that are working with Peddy, there is really something going on there. And the thing that is going on is that they are much more transparent. They're using the feed-forward model of Peddy to ask the questions, but the good thing that they're doing is that what they're receiving as an answer on their feed-forward, they're discussing that plenary. Like the whole team of 10, 12 people are going in this meeting room, and one by one, they're discussing the feed-forward. Okay, this was my question, and this is what people said about me, the 360 feed-forward. And that makes it very transparent. It makes the whole process very vulnerable, but also very, very, very empowering at the same time. That's what we also discovered with them. And we were very proud of one of the users who actually took the time to write this internal blog about Peddy and how Peddy changed his life. It's a true story. And he published it in this intranet thing, the internal website. And by that, also the term feed-forward was adopted by the bank in their negotiations with the unions for the new terms, etc. So
crazy.
Yeah, it's and when people ask me like, what are you most proud of, or what do you think there's more impact, I'm getting the goosebumps as I'm talking about it. It's funny because this is what we do. Actually, it's what's never meant. We never did Peddy for the money or for the fancy things or making apps. It was never the initial motivation. We wanted to make change. We wanted to add something to the world of HR, to reshape it in a way that employees will also reinvent themselves in the new version, but then from their own motivation and talent, not because somebody tells them to do that. And this is what happened with one of the users there. And we find it very funny and touchy and sensitive at the same time that he took the time to write this blog and to share it with all colleagues, like, listen, this is what I did, and we used the feed forward, etc. And they gave me a few tips, which actually helped me rediscover myself and improve myself in the next version together with the colleagues as they work on it.
Yeah.
Well, this is why we do it. This is, in the end, the why we started with Peddy at the first place.
Yeah, because you create that empowerment within people to get. Well, the thing is that when I look at the traditional process, is that you still define your own goals. At least in the ones that I had were like, okay, I want to have my own goals, and I want to do this and this and this. And you, as you said, you kind of lose track of that during the year. You don't even know what you were doing at that moment. So what I was saying is that you try to track that, but you also give that incentive of getting people towards that goal, and it gives them the idea that it's actually their thing, right?
Sure, yeah.
Usually, what happens is that it's your goal, man. Why aren't you doing it? That's the thing that I usually see leaders do, right? So they say, okay, why are you not working on your goal? It's your goal, right?
Yeah.
It's not my goal. It's your goal. You wanted to achieve that. Why are you not doing that? I think that what you said and what you showed was that's actually what the problem is in most cases, is right. Usually people don't find themselves kind of responsible for their own goals, which is really weird.
Yeah. But also because the leadership is taking the ownership away from the employees.
Yeah.
Because when we pitch sometimes Peddy, and one of the questions of these traditional managers in the room is like, okay, can I ask a question? Sure, go ahead. Can I, like a manager, swipe a few of those objectives in their Peddy so that they can start doing that? No, you can't. I mean, technically it's not a problem, but I don't believe in a culture of the company where the boss is just going to share these objectives to his employees, I think you should really, as a leader of the company also, or a team, you should challenge your employees by asking them, like, what is your next goal? What is the thing that you want to work on? And how could I help you get there? And by asking that question, probably you are going to challenge them enough to think about it. And once they've thought about it, they can come back to you and they can ask, okay, thank you for asking me, but this is what I want to work on. And would you care to be my coach during this period? And then you get them going. This is a totally different approach than I'm your boss and I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah,
I don't believe in that.
Work.
I don't believe in that. We're not going to build an app that is going to support that process.
Yeah.
So, and that's why sometimes Peddy can be, in the experience of people that never work with it, like difficult, because they think traditionally that they want to work in a different way, which is really conflicting with each other. So you have to let loose the old thinking and start embracing the new thinking and the new way of working, and then start dealing with it and start making some experience with it. And then the combination can be magical sometimes.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, I was when you were talking, I was thinking about the situation that we had a few years ago here at my job. There was a situation where we said, okay, we need to have an API because everyone wants to integrate with us, and the current solution that we have just doesn't work. Yeah. And that kind of, we need to have an API, was lingering around for a few years. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, but really, why aren't we doing this? I mean, everybody wants it. Everybody's talking about it. Why don't we do it? And then just one of the developers at the time said, okay, I'm going to build it. And that was all it took.
Great.
And actually, it's maybe one of the, I think it brought us the most in terms of added value to our product. right?
Yes.
And it just needed that one little nudge.
Somebody needed to take the ownership. Okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And it is now it's related to a product development. It can be also related to a personal development. It can also be related to a team development. But the point is that if you take ownership, and we facilitate taking ownership with Peddy also, always with a coach, so you are never alone, and there is a reason for that. We chose this way of working.
Yeah, otherwise you don't get feedback.
You don't get. Yeah, it's like if I want to run, I can take my shoes on and I can go run. But if it's raining, maybe I will think like, I don't know. But if you are waiting for me to
maybe
run
tomorrow
with me, to coach me, then
Yeah.
I will say, Ahmed is waiting for me. I have to. This social pressure is sometimes a good thing. And in terms of development, when you're serious with your personal development, or when you're serious with your performance, and you have also a coach who is taking also his role seriously. It's not like I'm just going to be there for you. No, you're there to help me.
Yeah.
So when you take it seriously on both sides, well, this is also a magical combination, because I know for a fact with my own experience that when I make this deal with myself, it's very easy to re-deal it again. It's raining, so tomorrow again. I went to swim today, but it was my own initiative. But past few weeks, I canceled it a few days because I didn't sleep well, and I have to go always early in the morning.
There's always excuses.
The swimming pool is more empty. But there's always an excuse, unless you go out of your bed and just go, But if somebody was waiting for me there, probably the incentive would be a little bit bigger.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about the future, because I always want to talk about things that are in the future, which is also one of the things with Feed Forward, which is
true.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But
we can shape the future. The past is only something that we can learn from.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, actually. That's really true. And what I wanted to ask is, where do you see organizations and cultures going in the future? Is that more towards this kind of thing? Because this wasn't a thing, I think, 20 years ago or something like that. These kind of cultures, right? Where do you think it will go?
I think that one thing will happen. I almost know for a fact that one thing is going to happen in the future, and that is that the traditional way of shaping this process, of designing this process, is going to be a history. I know that for a fact, because it's not working, and we have more evidence and experience, practical experience, that it's not working.
Everybody knows this.
Everybody knows it. It's a topic we talk about. It's all over the place. Even in the bars, when I start about Peddy, our company is the same. We hate it. We hate it. And now it's almost December, so these talks are going to take place and all that. Everybody hates it. I hated it when I was an employee, and I hated it when I was a manager, because it's on both sides. It sucks. I want to have meaningful dialogues, but not that kind of dialogues. So this is going to change. I know that for a fact. I think I know that for a fact.
And it's not because you're selling the product.
No. But if it is going to be a Peddy, like the norm, or is it going to be something else? I don't know. It's the future will show. We think we don't only have a great product with a great user interface and design and all that, and a great philosophy. It's the whole complete story. It fits. It makes sense. That's what we get as Feed Forward when we ask people, "What did you think?"
Yeah.
But it will change. And what it will change with the culture of the companies, I think that more network kind of companies are going to develop. I think the hierarchy is going to be there, but it will be different. It will be more loose. It will be more. Also, leadership is changing, in my opinion, more from like directive leadership as we knew it, more into like servicing and empowering kind of leadership that are there to make people get better in their jobs and organize it in a better way, and giving the facilities to employees to make them excel in what they do, rather than tell them what to do. Before this, we started recording this interview, we had this example of Steve Jobs telling that we are hiring smart people not to tell them what to do, but to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that will be also the norm for the future. I think we really should start thinking about employees not as that we are giving them a job and tell them what to do and how to do it.
They're not kids. Yeah, that's what you said.
They're not kids. We will start growing also as organizations, and also the cultures, in terms of giving them more ownership, more responsibility, more autonomy, and then from there empower them to create and to achieve the organizational goals, which makes it also for them much more interesting to work on, instead of just telling them what to do. When you're a co-designer of your organizational goals and you're a co-designer of your own goals and you work together to achieve them, it's much more fun. And what we do also with Peddy, we try at least, is make the whole process more fun. I couldn't show it on the demo just before the interview, but we have also this button, and it's just a coffee mug. So when there are interesting updates and people are sharing interesting information, we're like, okay, stop peddying, now press the coffee mug and go talk to each other. This coffee mug is also an invitation.
Take it offline.
Take it offline, go look up for each other, have some coffee and have this talk, because I believe that's where the real magic happens, not in the app. I don't care how good Peddy is or other apps are, but the magic happens in a real interaction between people. The applications like Peddy are there to connect people, to share information, to empower each other, step by step as we get there. But the real things are happening in the real interaction. Yeah. And when people ask, but is it not compensating the real interaction? No, I'm not afraid of that. It's more facilitating to the real conversation. Yeah, it's shaping that culture. It's not taking over the culture, right? That's the idea. It's just a tool. It's just a tool to get to a certain philosophy that you want to have. It's a tool, yes. Yeah. And to wrap up, I always ask this question, and you already touched on it a little bit. What are you most proud of? Yeah, it's a good question also. I said something about it. I think maybe the pride of doing something with Peddy, maybe I'm most proud of two things. One, that my genuine motivation and the irritation I had about this process motivated me in the end to start building something that maybe will reshape human resources as we know it. I really hope and I dream of. Now, 3 years later, we have a lot of users, a lot of clients who are also happy using it, and we see that there's something going on. There's some genuine change taking place there. So that I was able to reshape my irritation in something positive, like not just complaining like this process sucks and I hate it, but I quitted my job to do what I do. And the second thing is that we have more, but at least one very good example of somebody who was so honest to share that Peddy kind of changed his life, or at least gave his life a twist, gave his self-confidence a boost by using the tool and working not only by the tool, because it's not about the tool, it's about the whole philosophy behind the tool. Yeah. And when somebody is using it the way we designed it, we shaped it, and then we get also this feed forward, like it works for me, and it gives me really a wow feeling. So these two things are maybe the most important things I am proud of. Cool, very cool. Where can people find Peddy? Peddy can be found on the App Store and the Play Store. You can download it. Yeah. You have credentials. You need credentials to get in. But if you download it, you will get some information before you log in. So it's you can get a taste of Peddy at least. From there, you can send us also a message, and we'll get in touch with you. And we have also our website. It's www.peddy.nl, and Peddy is PEDDY, I think. Yes. .nl. So just check it out. You can send us a message. You can do this little ready to Peddy test. You can see if it's something for you. Next week we will also launch our English version of the website, and by the end of the year we'll have the whole reshaping of the brand and all. But that's for later. Yeah. Find us at peddy.nl or App Store or Play Store. Cool. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much for the invitation. I enjoyed it. Cool. And for the people listening, you can find Bits vs. Bytes on bitsvsbytes.com. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud. We're on iTunes. We're all over the place. So maybe in the future also Peddy. maybe. And of course, find us on social media. It's all Bits vs. Bytes, Twitter, Instagram, and also LinkedIn. And I'd like to thank you for listening, and until next time.